Hello, welcome to another episode of Tiny Nest. I'm Kiva.
And I'm Jake. This is another episode in our building series,
where we show how we set up the living room's nerd station.
Yeah, let's get it on! This is my nerd station, currently set up in the main house. So I've got a sit-stand desk here, and a TV is my monitor, second monitor, and a laptop is here. And so right from the earliest stages of design of the tiny house, we accounted for this going in there, and today is moving day. So I'm going to tear this down and hopefully fit it in there. We might have to mess with the desk a little bit because I don't know it's going to fit through the hallway. But yeah, we'll see if we can recreate this in the tiny house.
Moving day for the nerd station.
We're going to put the TV mount right here, and you'll remember that we added backing, a lot of horizontal backing, actually 2 stud spaces worth, so that there'd be tons of room because we didn't know how big the shelf was going to be exactly. So that gives us tons of room to work with this way. Height wise though, I had figured out exactly where I wanted it to be based on putting the TV to its highest position, measuring from the floor to that position, and then coming in here and checking. I basically made it so that it's going to come up to within about 2 inches of this, hopefully, if I did it all right. And so the backing is horizontal 2x4s in there, like this. So it's a pretty narrow target to hit, but it's really precisely added into our SketchUp file. So I've measured in SketchUp up to the center of those blocks, and then still got a template for the mount, and I can see that the marks line up, so the spacing is good. I had checked that back before we put the blocking in, and I'm pretty confident that this is where the backing is. And I also looked at a picture just to make sure that I knew there was one conduit that we ran that goes from a box down here and passes through the horizontal blocking, but it's over here. And since this is going to go about there, we've got this much space between us and that, so I don't think we're in any danger of hitting it. And the last thing I guess to mention is that we decided to center the TV perfectly between this control panel back here and the shelf, because there's only about 5 inches on each side when it's centered, so there's no point in biasing it either way. And yeah, I'm just going to basically made a height mark here, and I'm just using a level, holding it up to that mark, making a horizontal line, and then when we hold the template up, we'll just line up the holes so they line up the marks to make sure that it's at the right height and position. So I'm ready to make the final marks that I will be drilling into, and I made a vertical mark in the center and a vertical mark in the center of this template so that I can just line that up and then basically look through the holes until I've got the lines passing through them, and then just kind of split any minor differences there are, and then I'll make a mark and then drill. I also got the instructions for this mount. Always read the instructions. So it reminded me of what it calls for a drill bit for this size of lag bolt to hold the mount on, and also what depth to drill it in. Basically it does tell you to drill the whole depth. These are 3-inch lag bolts, and with 2x4 studs that are 3.5 inches thick, it's practically the whole thing. So obviously there can't be any wire or anything like passing through the stud because you'll go right through it. So we knew, of course, we didn't run anything through the backing, except for the one thing I said over here that we are aware of. And so we're ready to crank these in there. Personally, I think these lag bolts are a little bit overkill. Like, they don't need to be that long, but just using what came from the thing. Alright, that's part of the house now. And this mount, it just goes up and down. And on the little clip that is on the TV that's going to hang on this, you can tilt it forward like this a little bit. But it's mostly just for up and down because I have a sit-stand desk, and so the whole basically the whole station can go up and down. And the way this works is there's a spring in here and some mechanism that you can adjust with a bolt, like a nut up here, the strength of the spring. And so you basically, because you have different weights, like TVs are different weights, so you put your TV on there and then you push it up and down, and if it's tending to like shoot it up, then you reduce the spring force, and if it's too heavy to lift up, you increase it until it's balanced. So then when you push it, it just goes. So basically the spring has a force equal to the weight of the TV. And so right now there's nothing on it, and it's obviously still set for the TV's weight, so it takes a lot of force to pull it down. But you can see this is the adjusting nut there, and I'm trying not to let this spring up in anything, but yeah, that's pretty much that. And then we're gonna put the cover in the arms and then hook the TV onto it. So you're gonna you won't be able to back up enough, so you're gonna have to kind of hold it from the front, and I'm gonna look from this side because I can. A little bit higher. Oh god. Is it?
Feels like it's hitting something.
Okay, mine's on, so just keep your hands under it.
Okay.
For a sec.
Okay.
Okay, we're good. Oh yeah, I forgot that it can go that low. Because I never go as low as it can go because the desk is there.
Yeah.
Look how low that can go, that is ridiculous.
There it is.
It's a very important moment. It has entered.
How does that make you feel?
Pretty good. I'll be happier when it's up and running. We got the TV hung on the mount, and we also brought in my desk, which is adjustable height-wise, just like the TV mount. And so this is like my station, and normally I've got my laptop here, but I'll go through sort of a full tour of how I use this in a later video. But I want to point out that another element to making this work is the anti-fatigue mat. So I've had this for a while. It's like a gel, like specially engineered material so that you can stand on it without your feet getting sore, or I guess like your other joints and stuff too. Just a lot of cushion and support when you're standing. And then it's a little bit, I mean, it's pretty neutral being black, but doesn't really look that good. So we grabbed a little rug that just barely covers it here. So it looks a little bit better, and it really ties the room together. I've got my computer functional right now. This is a bit of a temporary mess, but I have actually successfully passed more than one Ethernet cable through the conduit. So this actually shoots through up to the control panel to switch up there. This would be a good time to mention that if you need a refresher on where these conduits are run inside the wall, go back and have a look at episode 47. And it fits perfectly behind these cross members of the desk, and there's still enough room for the power bar to plug into this receptacle, so I think it's going to be perfect once it's all cleaned up and finished.
As you saw, Jake uses a sit-stand desk for his computer. So he usually sits on an exercise ball, but that would just take up way too much space in the tiny house. So we found this bar stool on like a Craigslist type ad. It was only 15 bucks. And it's adjustable in height, so at its lowest point it can actually fit underneath the desk, which is awesome because it opens up more space in the living room. And what he's done here is, you also saw that he has an anti-fatigue mat for when he's standing at the desk. And so instead of having a stool on top of the mat, which would probably damage it in some way, he's built this contraption where we've screwed the stool to some plywood, and this will actually straddle the anti-fatigue mat so that he doesn't have to like move the mat or move this all the time. So anyways, I'm gonna unscrew the stool and give this like a sand and a stain to make it look a bit more finished.
We showed the construction of this corner shelving in the previous building episode, but this is when I was actually getting my monitor in place and figuring out the layout of my gear. Alright, I got the shelf in, and I got the screen obviously moved forward so that it's in front of that leg. It's also got a tiny gap here. Everything's working with very small margins in this tiny space, but that's good. And then I found actually something I hadn't considered was that I have my laptop over here, and when I flip that up, it actually had to use as much depth as there was available with the old shelf. So I flipped it up and it just hit this, and it was like not open all the way. So what I figured out there was that it was interfering with my keyboard, so I couldn't move it forward enough to get the lid open. So I just have it sitting on a temporary piece of the bottom of a box that I cut to be the right height. So now I can open that to a reasonable openness. It actually kind of is sticking out over my keyboard here, but this corner is not anywhere that I actually use. So I think we're getting close to the optimal setup here. And when I'm standing like this, my line of sight is such that the top of the laptop does not cover this screen, and neither of these screens cover this screen, and pretty much everything is looking good. So I'll probably make like a permanent thing that doesn't look horribly makeshift as this piece of cardboard box does. But I think we're pretty much there. And obviously when I adjust my height here, there's going to be no interference there when I'm seated down here. Obviously this is higher in my field of view, but it's good, and if I need to I can always tip it down just a bit, and I think that's going to be good. Like, I think that modification of the shelf is going to solve my issues here. This is sort of like the biggest hub, if you will, in the conduit system, and even with all this already in there, I've still got at least 2 more cables I'd like to put in. There's a conduit that heads upwards to above the computer on the little shelf, and I've stacked all my external hard drives up there, and they're all USB 3. So what I've got is 6-foot USB 3 extension, and I'm going to pass that through the conduit up there so that I can just reach up and plug things in, and it'll already be connected down on this end. And I've got an extra cable here that I'm going to use for a little USB hub thing that's going to be mounted to the underside of the desk, but that's a later step. The second cable that I am referring to that needs to go in here is a USB connection between here and the control panel, because I will have the Arduino boards in the control panel, and it would be nice to be able to just either have them always connected or just plug them in over there, rather than stringing a cable across. And secondarily, all of this stuff that I'm doing is sort of to avoid or minimize the need to come down, crawl under here, and connect stuff. So I'm going to go ahead with that. I'll drop the USB 3 down from above. It's much more difficult to work with hard bends in Conduit, so I purposely designed it so that, for example, this USB cable I could send down from the control panel to a box directly beneath it, and then I've got additional conduits that go sideways, and that will allow me to get to this one, which is where I want it to go. So I will do a follow-up video on all my gear and how it's connected to what and everything, and get really nerdy about it in the future. But for now, that's pretty much the physical setup for this area. There are speakers, a surround sound system, which I pre-wired, which we talked about when we were doing the wiring. And since that's a physical thing, including the mounting and everything, we will have a dedicated episode on that, possibly even the next one, or at least within the next few episodes.
Okay, I'm filming you. Figure your shit out.
What?
Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like what we're doing here, and turn on email notifications so you never miss a video. You can also find extra resources in the description below.
We spend countless hours making these videos for YouTube, so if you appreciate our work, take 3 minutes to watch the video in the top left tile to learn some ways that you can support us for free.
We'd really appreciate it.